within an hour, he started having chest pains and he couldn't breathe. And then he's just been suffering since then. But now we don't know what the heart issues are. He goes for an MRI tomorrow on his heart. But he also has brain lesions, 2 of them, and he has a brain tumor. And he has neurological issues that he does that shaking and he looks drunk. He can't stand still. Lost his job, and his life's basically over.
What made now take the shot?
Well, if he doesn't work, we share expenses. I have 4 boys, and we all still live together. One of them's still underage, and I don't know, I had Dylan when I was 18, so we grew up together, and we're just really, really close. And if I need him for anything, there he is, and if he needs me, I would do the same. And it's just sort of been, like, we moved to Barrie for his job, like all of us, because that's just what we do. If somebody needs us to do something, it's what we do. So he helps. It's the reason we can afford the house that we rent. It's the reason that we're okay. Otherwise, everything's too expensive. But, it's just what we do. And so he thought if he doesn't keep working, he can't help us. And if you make me cry, I'm gonna be mad. But he's like that. He would do anything for anybody.
I didn't want to, because I have a background in computers, so my theory was you never take the first of anything, you never upgrade the first Windows, but you let the trial and the bugs get run out, and then you take it. But the way the government was running was, we didn't know if we can grocery shop soon, we didn't know what would be allowed. My work at the time had said we pay you $100 a shot to get it, but if you didn't have it by September 1st, you would be required to show up to work 2 to 3 hours early without pay. You're required to pay for the testing every day. If you were late based on these testing requirements, you would be dismissed after 3 absences. If you refused, you would be dismissed, like you'd be sent home that day. Again, three days missed, you're let go. So that's basically kind of felt trapped and is like, well, if I'm gonna get paid, might as well, take this shot.
So we argued a lot about you're gonna lose your job if you don't, but I'm saying if you die, you don't have a job. And he says, well, I have life insurance, so you guys will be taken care of. I don't need that, I'm good, I need you here. But then he said, well, I'll be fine. But now is he fine? He lost his job anyway.
So before the job, my typical day was either I got up at 3 a.m, went on for a 14-hour work day. I worked as a welder and CNC operator. And after that, I would after my shift would end, I'd either go climbing, go hiking, or run daily errands, but never really tired. Only slept maybe 4 or 5 hours a day. I was hiking probably around 400K a month, doing backcountry hiking. And that was pretty much my life, was work, outdoors, cycling, anything besides sitting still.
Out of all my kids, he's the healthiest one. He's the most active one. Come on, it makes no sense. But I'm watching him die in slow motion over a year.
And it was about an hour after I took it, it's when the chest pain I have now, where it's really heavy right here, that's how it started, and it just kind of went downhill from there. Being me, I kind of ignored it. I'm good with pain, so figured, it'll pass. I was literally at work, I was like falling asleep. I found myself sitting all the time, which in my job I shouldn't be doing. But I had never felt that fatigue before. I was just going down, and then I was on a lake when I finally dropped. I was doing I think it was a 5K into Moon River, on a river. And it was my ex at the time, told her I can't move anymore. Like, my whole body just stopped, I've never had that before in my life.
So by the time he got home, he could barely walk. He looked like he was having a stroke. He couldn't talk, he was slurring, his eyes were basically closed when he's talking to you, he's doing this, and it's not making sense, and he's wobbling everywhere.
I've broken my foot and my ankle climbing, and I hiked myself out, drove myself 3 hours home, went and did my shift the next day before seeing medical help. I'm very good with pain, and I just ignored it, just like I've done with every other injury I've had. It's just, unfortunately, this one was one I probably shouldn't have done that with, but I was just being me. I have other coworkers who have done the same things. You're in trades. You don't cry because you get hurt. You suck it up and you get the job done.
He was having, I don't know if you've seen the videos of those people that their muscles seize and twitch everywhere. It was like that, but not quite as intense with the amount of it, but just like one seize and wouldn't let go. And he was just on the floor.
I don't remember everything. Everything kind of gets hazy. But I remember her screaming that my doctor at the time was saying I was having a stroke.
I called his doctor and he said, take him to the hospital. Right now, he's probably having a stroke. And took him in and he said, tell them that this started an hour after the shot. They need to know. So I drove him down to Alliston Hospital.
And I had to memorize these lines to say to make sure I got treated properly. And it was something to do with the stroke, and I might be having a reaction to the vaccine. I think that was it. I honestly don't remember much more.
And when we got there, I wasn't allowed in. They had like that, it looked like a camper, like a little mini camper. It had open on both ends, and there's the fencing and police around, and you can't get in unless you went through this little spot. This was back last year, right? So it was a bit different, but he had to go through that without me, and he couldn't walk very well, and then they questioned him and stuff, and then he has to keep going through.
And I remember the nurses were mad as soon as I brought up the vaccine injury, and but they still took me in. I was sat in the waiting room for a while, probably hours, and then when I finally got in, the doctor was mad. He kept saying there is no reaction to the vaccine. You can't have one. Kept offering me injection of pain meds. I don't know exactly what it was, but he kept saying, we'll give you this and you can go home. And I kept saying, I don't care about the pain. I just need this to stop.
So when he got to see the doctor finally, they left him in the waiting room way too long. Got him in the doctor finally. And the doctor said, so what's going on? What's bothering you? And he said, my doctor said to tell you, it was an hour after the shot, that this started, and today it just got so much worse. And that's when he got mad and said, you're wasting my time. They don't have adverse reactions. You're fine. This is not from the shot. I think he wanted him to just say, okay, it's not. And I think then he might have gotten proper care. I don't know.
But they never did anything. They did an x-ray and some blood work. I think that was it. And they said they didn't see anything, go home. So I remember when I got out and I told my mother, she was infuriated. And then after that, I don't really remember much. I remember I couldn't walk really anymore. I couldn't speak well. I could barely text. So it was very fuzzy until September-ish. I have a bit more memory. And at that time, I just remember pain. I was in so much pain all the time. My left side of my body would just seize. And that's it, all it was. It was just seizing. I couldn't breathe. I don't know if you've ever had the worst Charlie horse in your life, but it was like that on your left side of your body.
He stutters a lot. If he thinks too much, he can't drive, he can't read. Like if he reads a bit, he's okay, but if he wants to read or learn something, I got him a camera because he was going crazy, he couldn't do anything, and he's used to never being home. So so I got him a camera and said, here, like we have woods right by our house, take pictures of stuff. He loves doing that. So he would do that, but he's trying to learn how to use one of the parts of it. And when he would try to read, he'd get so frustrated, and then he'd start mumbling and slurring his words, and he'd stutter, and he can't think, and then he's just boom down, and he's out for the day.
And my left head, so here down, it feels like blood. Still to this day, it feels like blood running in my face. The weirdest sensation. I don't know if you've ever been hit, but that's what it feels like. If you've ever been hit and had a little bit of blood running down your face. But it feels like that, but a shower. Never stops. And that's when the stabbing pain started. So I had the crushing, but I have stabbing pain here, here, and here, where it just feels like literally someone's stabbing you nonstop. So that still, to this day, doesn't really go away. The CBD oil I take now helps, but it's always there. And if I miss a dose or do, unfortunately, that MRI, it apparently aggravates it. I don't know. It's pretty much since then been a waiting game and trial and error with meds.
It's like as soon as he tries to use his brain, then he suffers really quick. You can see his eyes glass over, and he's not okay. He'll push through anything. He used to come home with steel sticking out of his eyeball, and he had that twice, and he didn't. I mean, he never got upset about it. He can handle pain, but this, when I'm watching him cry, there's no words for that. No words. And the last time we were in the hospital, I mean, he's not in a super emotional person that way. He thinks it, but he's not. He just shows how he feels by doing stuff.
I've had to come to terms with I might not make it much longer. Right? Like every time I end up in the hospital, I end up in worse condition than I was prior. So I have apologized to everybody I've ever felt I wronged. I've basically said my last message I had to say to everybody that I cared about.
And when we were in the hospital in March this year, in North York, he was crying and he started saying, "You know how much I love you, right?" And I'm like, "No, you can't say that." But he's just, I'm sorry for anything and everything, and he's never done anything. He was such an easy kid. He's perfect.
And it's not something you ever want to do, but I don't want to be in a position where I was last time, where I had unfinished things to say to people. So if you don't want to end up like me, do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Go do your research. Get medical help immediately. And it's pretty much what I've told everybody who I even hear has a slight reaction. Just go see somebody, because if you end up like me, who has trouble walking down the street now, they still tell me they don't know when I'll get better, if I'll get better. Like, it's not worth it. Like, I've lost everything. I've lost my job. I've gone bankrupt. It cost me my relationship. Almost cost us our home. Like I got not much left to lose at this point. If I had just gone to a doctor, maybe they could have caught it. If I just didn't get it, I'd be totally fine. I ended up getting COVID, 6 weeks ago, and it was 2-day fever and a week of body aches. If that's all it was, I would have taken that. I've had worse colds. Not saying that other people haven't gotten sick. I do know people who have died of COVID. But for someone in my case, where I was healthy, never got sick, never missed a day of work, I had no need for this.
I kept saying, you're killing yourself for a company that doesn't care. But they could give him a severance if they wanted to. They could have. 7 years he was there. It would have paid for his treatment.
My supervisor checks in, but that's more on a friend level. But DCAST on its own has, since I told a coworker of mine that it was vaccine injury, because it was labeled that, basically all communication with HR ceased, except for help getting onto disability. But besides that, all the offers that they originally offered me went out the window. They just, I don't know, they kind of just pretend they'd never offered it. So I know other employees who have been severely injured and been off for a year at a time, who I promised those coworkers I would never say what they got, but they got significantly more help than I did. And the only difference was mine was forced upon me, where theirs was workplace incident.
I mean, technically, he's got to be on disability now, right? Because he can't work. But technically, I guess, does that mean they didn't really let him go? He just can't work. They would love to have him back. But here we are. I mean, I don't think that there's any coming back from this. It might be livable at some point, but I don't think that... I mean, I hope, but...
Government. Like my work, they work very closely with the government, so the timeline that they gave us worked identical to the provincial government's vaccine mandate that they said they knew nothing about, but it was literally day to day. Like the day that my work announced, hey, this is the day that VaxPass is going to become a thing, which at the time was apparently not known. And my work also said the same thing. Then to me, it seems like they worked together. They knew it was coming, and they were just trying to get their employees in line.
When he wakes up bleeding from his ears, we know it's getting really bad, because that's usually how that goes. It happens whenever it's going to get bad. I mean, I'm watching him die. I mean, I'm not being dramatic. I'm literally watching him die. It looks like he's dying.
We had a neurosurgeon, a neurologist. I don't know if it's 2 cardiologists or 1. So 1 cardiologist. I'm seeing naturopaths because no one knows what to do. I know there was talks about seeing a virologist, but I don't know. I never actually seen her yet, but I don't know if that's still in the works. My mother deals with most of my stuff due to my memory issues now. So you'd have to talk to her about that one. But for the ones I know of, then of course we have my family physician before I retired. Trying to think of who else. So I've lost track of how many doctors I've talked to.
If anybody's suffering in silence, you can't get help that way. You're not going to get what you need. I can't do this if other people aren't. I have so many people that I don't know that are always messaging and saying, how is he? Are you okay? You know, this must be so hard on you. And it's not that I don't know that. It's just more, I don't want to do it alone. These random people with their flags showed up at his doctor's just to say, we don't know you, but, you know, we care what happens to you. And I don't know, never felt anything like that.
How did that make Dylan feel?
Well, he's not an emotional person, but, I mean, I'd make anybody cry.
Literally restores your faith in people, because I've lost friends who are upset with my belief that it should be every person's choice to choose this, and they shouldn't be, punished for making a decision that, someone else doesn't agree with. Like, it's a medical choice. I don't get a say, and that person doesn't get a say. It's based on each person's individual choice, right? If you feel that you need the masks and if you need the vaccine, then get them. But apparently, for me thinking that, I'm a bad person. I've had people scream at me being in the outdoors, especially one at the laundromat down our street, because I wasn't fully vaxxed. And so I told the gentleman my story, and I said, this is why I'm not. And his response was, I deserve to I've had a long life, and you shouldn't be taking that from me. So I responded with, well, I'm glad you got to have a long life. You're in your late 70s. I've barely made it to my 30s. So I don't know what makes you think you get to tell every other young 20-year-old that, hey, you don't get to live, so I get to live a little bit longer. Like, I've never heard of any other generation saying, the young should sacrifice for the old. Right? But so after all, I've had to block all my social media accounts because of how much hate mail I was getting, and people trying to prove that I was faking. And it's like, why am I faking? I've lost everything. But seeing those people actually coming out and seeing that not everyone's a monster, definitely has restored my faith. And there's definitely no words I could ever say to, I don't know, I can't think of the word, convene my gratitude. I don't know if that's the right word, but fortunately I'm drawing a blank on my vocabulary. Just, I guess, do your own research. Don't trust everything you read. Just because one person says it doesn't mean it's true. And in the end, do enough research that you can live with ending up like me or worse. Because before, we didn't have the information, we didn't know, but now it's out there. There's so many people that are hurt, so many people who are scared to even speak up. So just go around and ask people yourself. In the end, it's not the stranger or the person forcing you to take the vaccine. It's you who has to live with the consequences, right? Like, in the end, I'm the one who suffers. My mother's the one who I see crying every once in a while, and she thinks I don't.
How many kids should I be sacrificing to make other people happy? How many do they need? All? or 1, 2, I don't know. When's enough?
Don't trust Justin Trudeau. Don't trust Doug Ford. The stuff's out there. You got to do your own research. That's all I can say. I wish I never did it. So, I don't know.
Be who you wanna be in freedom and joy.